Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over the broader market. Let's talk about Tesla itself and let's talk about what in the hell happened today. After a phenomenal start to the day, everything is being extremely green to, well, things reversing. And not just reversing some of them pretty substantially. So let's talk about it. I'll give you my thoughts moving forward. If you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. And of course, if you enjoy my technical analysis, thoughts on the charts, etc. Again, I do share my thoughts with the members every single day as the market is open, including the post I actually shared last night. I mean, there's a lot of posts today because, obviously in days like this, there's a lot to talk about. But pretty much as the market was gapping up yesterday, I mentioned something to my members overnight here. All the bulls have to do is not let this rally be sold into again tomorrow. Show strength and things will be looking better. If this is sold into again, that is a major issue, right? You know, I was watching for that potential because there was that potential that, you know, every rally so far has been being sold off into. And, you know, the bulls needed to hold, right? Again, I'll go over this more in detail towards the end of the video where I go over the broader market. But nonetheless, let's get into it. If you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. Yeah, I have a membership section. I think I said that already. So if you're interested, you know, definitely check it out. You know, join up if you wish, right? Again, the link is down below in the description. Again, I'm constantly sharing all my thoughts, post updates, a lot of posts, like all these right here. Check this out. All this was today. A lot of posts today, right? So, you know, on days like today. But $3 a month. Again, it gives you access to all my Tesla updates, broader market updates, QQQ, VIX, SPY, right? Options flow, different time frame analysis, all of that good stuff. Again, as the market's open and trading, $5 includes NVDA, $7 is the whole package, which also includes private access to our Discord. We have a nice active chat room. I do chart reviews every single Sunday with members and also access to the tier 3 posts of stocks that are not Tesla and not NVIDIA. But anyway, jumping into a Tesla down 2.2%, which doesn't sound that bad, but when you take into account from the high of the day, where it will technically down almost 8% if you bought the top and let's say sold the bottom, congratulations, you're down 8% just like that. Sometimes it can be that quick, but you have to understand when the VIX is this elevated, and elevated it is I wouldn't say it's extremely elevated, but it's quite elevated. There's no question about that. You're going to have more volatile movements. You're going to have more traps, usually in both directions as well. Bulls will get trapped. Bears will get trapped. That's kind of how things go when the VIX gets elevated, and it's absolutely elevated. I'll go over what I personally would like to see going into as early as tomorrow, but going into Tesla specifically, you know, the bigger picture, and again, this is sometimes why I try to like constantly, I don't want to use the word advise because I'm not advising anything, but mention how patience is important sometimes in, you know, when trading stocks in general, right? Or, you know, waiting for setups, etc. You know, because I am trading other stocks, but because I'm being very patient on Tesla, you know, like I said, the main thing to watch for are these two trend lines, right? These are the two trend lines that really matter. Like until one of these snaps, me personally, yeah, I'll update things on what's happening, what I think is going to happen. But me personally speaking, from my, you know, for me trading, I don't really care what happens here. I don't care. To me, all this in here, don't care. It's meaningless to me. What I care is what this move results in, right? And again, the resolution will most likely happen below, again, daily closes below and holding below pretty much this trend line, so about 390, or above this trend line, which again, depending on how quick it happens, high 430s, maybe 440 itself, depending on how quick it happens, until one of these level snaps, until these trend lines. And I've been saying this for, I don't know, weeks at this point, probably. It doesn't matter. Nothing really matters. Now, I continue leaning on the more bearish side of things, right? Which kind of sucks. I don't like being super bearish when the market's tanking like this, but I continue leaning, at least on Tesla stock, definitely on the more bearish side of things still. And I'm waiting for resolution. I'm waiting for Tesla to either break above this and show me bullish pressure or ultimately break down below. And then I'm waiting to start buying down here, essentially. You know what I mean? Down at these levels, down to retest this massive area that was a massive resistance, starting as high as about 370 to honestly as low as 350, right? That's sort of $20 range, right? This whole area. I'm expecting now to be a, well, support, resistance, support, right? I expect the bulls to flip it back, even if temporary, but I do expect there to be some significant support coming in. Now, for Tesla stock to go down to those levels would be a drop of at least another 7%. So honestly, pretty much another day like today from highs to lows. Worst case scenario, like I said, about another 12 to 13%. That's where I really start getting interested again, right? But again, if we don't drop and we end up, you know, bouncing from here, kind of like this, and then we head higher like that, you know, that's a possibility. It's a possibility, right? We can't fully exclude it until an actual resolution begins taking shape here. So that is also a possibility. And, you know, if that happens, then cool. Then we enter on strength. Pretty simple stuff, right? At the end of the day. So I'm continuing to monitor. I'm continuing to watch slowly but surely. But those are the main things to watch for, right? Again, we have the exponential moving averages over here on Tesla stock now, obviously slowly but surely also flipping to the bearish side. We have the 9 crossing below the 50. We rejected pretty much right at the exponential moving averages again with the 21. If the bulls were able to hold, right? Because there was a possibility we go up to 430 today. That was very, a very real possibility because we broke above, we broke these highs. And, there was a possibility that we come down here, turn this level into support, which was a resistance, and head higher, right? Again, that was definitely a possibility, especially with how, fairly de-elevated, we'll say, the 1 hour MACD still is. But obviously, again, you have to take into consideration, this is why I don't really day trade when it comes to the VIX being this elevated. I usually just, personally, what I'm doing, if you're wondering what I'm doing, I either nibble just raw shares on things like SPY, Qs, things like that, or I should say, I sell cash ticket puts. I sell cash ticket puts on stocks I like, maybe like Robinhood, maybe Tesla, right? Whichever stocks I like, I sell cash ticket puts because the premiums are very elevated. Now, it's obviously technically higher risk because things are very volatile, but that's how I like to do it. So I don't really day trade when stocks are this aggressive because it's just very easy to get trapped, and I'm not looking to get trapped, right? I'm looking to just slowly enter stocks that I like. But there was that potential back to the 430s. But it's worth noting that depending on how you look at it, whether you use the Fibonacci from up here down to here, we continue to reject at that red Fibonacci here at the 618. If we went higher to the mid to high 430s, that was the green Fibonacci. Or even if it dropped from the all-time highs up here, not all-time highs, recent highs, I should say, to the recent lows, we rejected at the 0.5 Fibonacci with also, again, the 618 in this formation sitting also at 439. There's a lot of confluence around 439 that the bulls need to get past. But in order to get past that, we have to get up there first. All this yapping just to say, guys, these two trend lines is all that matters. 390 roughly, 440 roughly. Below, above. Below that, yeah, we can make our way down lower and see down here. Above, yeah, we can easily retest all-time highs. But until those snaps, it doesn't really matter what actually happens here, ladies and gentlemen. So just, it's worth mentioning that. The 4-hour SMI, this thing has been very, very clutch, right? When we tanked very aggressively in the 4-hour SMI, right, nailed the bottom, we had that bounce. And I mentioned how I don't think we'll snap down below 390 just yet. I do expect overall chop. And honestly, there is still a chance that we don't snap it just yet. We still get a bit more chop and then snap it maybe, I don't know, maybe next week. I'm not entirely sure as to when. But the point is the fact that the SMI has cooled off. You can see it's nowhere near the bottom. So even if we do come down, I expect it to be pretty quick. By the way, if we lose 390, I do expect this to be a most likely a fast move to the downside within a few days at most. And then the SMI will most likely make its way down. The ideal scenario that I would like to see if this move happens, if we make our way down here to, let's just say 360 for now, right? 360 is that the SMI comes down as well, of course, but doesn't go as low. It goes something like this. And then we start making that sort of bullish divergence on that 4-hour SMI. That to me would be the ideal scenario because now we're entering major supports. We're entering still a pretty oversold SMI, but with a bullish divergence, that is going to start really spelling out something that I start looking at very favorably from a bullish perspective for at least a bounce, or worst case scenario, very much slowing down the bleeding, right? So that's the way I'm going to continue looking at things just in general, really moving forward, at least on Tesla stock, right? In terms of the weekly time frame, you can see we're now visibly turning this sort of general vicinity into a resistance, so that's not ideal. So let's see, guys. Let's see. I mean, that's, again, my overall thesis and my overall thought process on Tesla has been pretty unchanged. Again, I personally haven't really been trading Tesla almost at all. I've just been slowly trading other stocks. It's definitely been a harder couple of weeks here with this elevated VIX, right? It's definitely, it's definitely harder. But nonetheless, it's just, I'm being very patient on the stock until I see something meaningful. Again, either to my target or a nice bullish breakout. Whichever comes first, that's where I start taking action personally. Now, let's go over the broader market here. Let's start off with the VIX. The VIX closed with a lot of strength, guys. When the VIX closes with this kind of strength, and by the way, this morning, I told my members that it's coming in. I don't know if I can find the post. There's so many posts today, but it was towards the morning. Maybe I can find it towards the morning. I kind of know what the screenshot should look like. It's definitely before all this. Actually, no, it's not before all this. It's after all this. There is a post that I talked about for the VIX. This one here. Yeah, this one, I think it was this one. Yeah, 6 hours ago, right? I mentioned how huge drop here, which is good for bulls, but it's still within bullish EMAs here and at the 19.5 support range. Today or tomorrow, we find out if this is about to get one more pop or it will die down for good. And you can see this is when the VIX was pretty much at the low of the day. And guess what we did exactly from here? we bounced significantly, right? The VIX bounced substantially. And this is kind of what I was saying. It came down right into support and bullish EMAs, and it still found that support essentially to bounce, which obviously brings down the market, increases volatility substantially. But the point I'm trying to make also is the fact that the VIX has closed significantly higher than, not higher, but it closed very elevated. It's very, very elevated, and it's closing with strength. What that actually means moving forward is the fact that number one, the risk for continued volatility and potential market pain still in the cards, still open to potentially even getting, maybe even a decent gap down tomorrow. I really wouldn't be surprised if we open up tomorrow morning, honestly, with a 0.5% to 1% gap down in the markets. I generally wouldn't be surprised. And I'll explain more when I go to SPY and the Qs. But again, you have to understand when the VIX closes this far up, I do expect more volatility. To me, the ideal scenario to really just get the capitulation going and to start forming some levels of bottoms in the market and start getting some strong bounces is a strong, massive, quick, maybe even as early as tomorrow, move on the VIX higher, ideally into the three something, like the 30s, I should say, right? That is the ideal scenario. And that's when I think a lot of fear will start to happen for the first, few hours of the market. And then we get a significant bounce across the board as well. And then the VIX will most likely fall off a cliff after that. That is the ideal scenario for me personally. But let's see. The point I'm trying to make also is the fact that, again, whenever the VIX gets this elevated, or if we bring out the weekly, every time the VIX gets elevated, it feels like it's the end of the world and the market is about to just fall off a cliff and it's all over. It's all over. It's actually Joe over, right? But again, as you can see, almost every single time the VIX gets elevated, every single time it also comes back down. And guess what the market does when the VIX comes back down? Well, the market begins to rally, right? The market, again, we live in a Ponzi scheme, guys. The market it's made to rally. It's made to go up. That's just how things work. We live in a simulation where this thing is ultimately, it's literally designed to go up and to the right. Again, long term, of course. Short term, that's where the noise is. But it's worth mentioning that, yes, the VIX is closing with strength. That can open up continued pressure. Let's go to SPY quickly, right? Now, SPY is at its first major level of support, which is around this kind of mid to low 650s. But based on the VIX closure and the fact that the market did close pretty weak with some pretty significant bearish engulfing candles, everyone and their mother will be talking about these bearish engulfing candles. So guess what the best thing to do for the market right now? Guess what will trap the most people? From my perspective, if I were to just be sort of, Dr. Strange here and think of all the possibilities, if you will, to me, the thing that would really trap the most people, create the most fear, while also just, I don't want to say the most confusing move, but probably like the best move for the market to make to wash people out. A large gap down tomorrow. A large gap down tomorrow. Honestly, potentially even coming down to about the mid 640s on SPY tomorrow. Kind of like what this arrow is suggesting, massive gap down. Everyone is freaking out down here. VIX is at like, let's say 30. Beautiful. That is setting up the most beautiful situation possible, because what you want when the market is very weak like this, you want gap downs. You don't want gap ups. We got a gap up today. That's what creates these kind of very bearish reversal candles. That's what creates problems, right? Because we gapped up right into this kind of resistance zone here. Couldn't really, maintain above it for too long. Got that strong reversal. What creates bullish reversals during weakness as gap downs, ironically enough, almost, because gap downs is where we can gap down and then create maybe a bullish piercing candle, a bullish hammer candle, whatever, right? That's what creates opportunities to start forming reversal candles. So this to me right now would be that most kind of, the best course of action for the market to take going into as early as tomorrow, potentially even maybe Monday, right? So let's see, guys. Let's see. One kind of massive sweep below the lows, get everyone panicked out, and then reverse this thing higher. And I think that's most likely the course of action. Same with the Qs, kind of the same idea over here. You can see it's now approaching another major support area around the low 580s. But, the Qs, for instance, also coming back down maybe to the high 570s and then heading higher as well. And ultimately breaking this trend line is what will really matter to end this aggressive downtrend. Once that trend line breaks, things are looking a lot better. But again, I am looking for a potential gap down tomorrow, sweep the lows, get everyone panicked out, and then this thing reverses higher. That's my current expectation. If not here, either here, right now, starting tomorrow right away, and we just gap up tomorrow, or not the very gap up, but we hold around here and then reverse, or we get that gap down and then reverse. Those are my two kind of scenarios right now. I don't know which one is going to play out, but that's kind of how I'm looking at it overall. Also, on top of this, the broader market is finally coming back, making its first visit to that 21 exponential moving average, not too far below, which guess what? Comes in line pretty well with that gap down, retest the 21 moving average on the weekly into higher. Same with the Qs, pretty much already there actually. So let's see, guys, let's see. But that's kind of how I see the market overall. But let's see what happens tomorrow. A lot of fear, a lot of fear in the market right now. I don't know. That's kind of how I see it, guys. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow. Peace.